When humans first sent a probe to explore the sun, they were astonished to discover that in 18,000 years, the sun would experience an energy flare. This event would cause it to lose 6% of its mass. But for humanity, this was a cataclysmic disaster. It would cause Mercury to melt, Venus's atmosphere to be torn away, and Earth's surface temperature to reach 4,000 degrees. A layer of rock on the continental surfaces would melt instantly. 3 centuries later, humanity took its first self-rescue action. They launched a starship, intending to find a habitable planet within a 1,000 light-year radius. The ship was named the Arkansas. These astronauts were called the Forerunners. Year 40, the Ark detected its first potentially habitable planet, but its violent geological activity made it unable to support life. Year 60, the Ark discovered a planet, Odyssey. This planet had a similar size and mass to Earth. But within the planet's star system, there was a disturbance from a gas giant. This caused the planet's orbit to be unstable. The seasonal cycles were chaotic and disordered, and its atmosphere contained large amounts of toxic gas. Year 90, the Ark discovered a frozen planet. Its surface was almost entirely covered by an ice shell. It was estimated that the ice layer was tens of kilometers thick. Beneath it, there might be a vast liquid ocean. Unfortunately, the planet was too far from its star. For humans, if they couldn't break through the ice shell with extreme technology and establish a sustainable energy source, living here would be nearly impossible. Year 100, the Ark sent back a series of disappointing messages. Although they had discovered a dozen Earth-like planets, they either had environments that were too harsh, or there were problems with the nearby magnetic fields and gravity. After 200 years of light-speed travel, a distress signal arrived from Earth. They had gone from the initial greenhouse effect to a scorching, carbonized era. People were forced to start building underground shelters. The sun hung high in the sky, as if it wanted to evaporate everything in the world. Vast stretches of land began to turn into desert. My name is Hulai. I am also a member of this starship's crew. Based on our recent preliminary analysis, I realized the danger was approaching faster than we imagined. So we began a heated discussion. On the eve of the sun's energy flare, its own heat would rise rapidly. This meant that before the energy flare even arrived, humanity might already be gone. But we couldn't possibly turn back. If we went back now, it wouldn't matter that we couldn't bring back any good news. By the time we returned, Earth would have been long gone. But some people believed we should return. And so a small-scale riot broke out. Some crew members, despairing of the aimless voyage, tried to seize control of the ship to make themselves the masters of the vessel. Others fell into an endless depression, despair, and ultimately chose to take their own lives. In the 7th century, the Ark had already passed its 137th star. The star before us was also uninhabitable. It was a planet with a diameter of 9,000 miles, an anomalous world with no discernible pattern. It had 3 suns nearby. While the planet moved, the 3 suns themselves also rotated. Sometimes they would align in a 3-sun syzygy, scorching everything. Other times, there would be no sun, plunging it into an eternal, frigid night. This trajectory had no pattern whatsoever. I called it Trisolaris. The only achievement of the Ark's journey was to further prove humanity's loneliness. The universe is so vast, yet we are so alone. Because our ship had been traveling near the speed of light for 700 years, 49,000 years had passed on Earth. In the 16th millennium, we could no longer receive messages from Earth. No one knew what had happened, and on the ship, I was the only one left. When I returned to Earth, the Earth before my eyes had become a gigantic black and white ruin. Had everything we knew turned to smoke and dust? Even so, there must be some trace of humanity's existence, right? But just then, the ship received a video signal from the ground. It was a scene from the great catastrophe that occurred thousands of years ago. I decided to go down and see what had happened over these tens of thousands of years. The ground was rock that had melted and then resolidified. It was a silence I had never witnessed before. Could it be that all humans were gone? Had human civilization just vanished like that? No, The signal sent to me earlier wasn't captured by my ship. It was received. Just then, a projection was emitted from a distance. It was a virtual artificial intelligence. Who are you? Respected macrohuman, hello? I am the terminal projection of the microhumans. Through her, I learned that, as it turned out, on the eve of the disaster, before we had returned, the United Council had adopted my abandoned proposal. And that was to shrink humanity by a factor of 1 billion. The terminal told me a story. If humanity shrank by 1 billion times, then the scale of human society also shrank by 1 billion times. We would only need a very small ecosystem and consume extremely few resources to survive. For example, a normal-sized can of food would be enough to feed the residents of an entire city for 2 years. The remaining can could also satisfy 3 years of steel consumption. And being microscopic increased humanity's ability to survive in the universe by hundreds of millions of times. A spaceship the size of a macrohuman return capsule could transport all of humanity. Then, on a small asteroid in space, they could continue to survive. So, what about humanity now? Humanity is now divided into 2 types. One is the microhumans who underwent the shrinking modification. The other is macrohumans like you. The culture and brains of microhumans are no worse than macrohumans. In some aspects, their talents even surpass those of macrohumans. This led to most people becoming microhumans, while the number of macrohumans drastically decreased. They even became a protected species. They began to demand control of the world. But how could the macrohumans agree to that? So, in a fit of anger, both sides tore up the treaty. An unprecedented war broke out. The macrohumans thought they could win easily, but the reality was the exact opposite. They couldn't see the microhumans, and the number of microhumans was immense. The macrohumans lost, and it was a complete rout. So how did the microhumans develop? The microhumans spent 5 centuries 80,000 kilometers underground, which is 800 meters deep for macrohumans, building thousands of supercities to escape the solar flare. Then, for 100 years after the Great Catastrophe, they returned to the surface. They used 5 centuries to build a new human world. So what about the people now? People now call this the micro-era. No, I mean, what happened to the macrohumans? There are none. What do you mean? I mean that right now, you are the only macrohuman. Can I become a microhuman too? We thought everyone had completed the transformation, so the genetic engineering technology was destroyed. It suddenly occurred to me that there is something very important I must do now. This is our seed bank. It contains the seeds of millions of plant species. It also has the elite embryos from every industry, brought from Earth.